You know, Cody, I was thinking, maybe we just don't have a bit this time.
That's kind of avant-garde.
I mean, you know, why be funny? What's the point?
Well, that's just kind of nihilistic and bleak, isn't it?
Something like that. I don't have anything.
Welcome back to the Double Dip Draft! Week 6 of the... No, 5.
No, week... Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Double Dip Draft. Joining me today is Spoo, coach of the Southtown Sand Slashers. Who am I? Can you tell them? Who am I?
You are Cabral of the Hash-Slinging Aegis Slashers.
I am, and we're taking a look at Week 5 for the Pearl Division. Some crazy matches this week. A couple crazy matches, actually. Specifically one, and then later during this, we are going to be going over the new player, the San Fran Furrets, Jake. And we'll be talking about his draft and the composition of his team, but that's going to happen a little later. We're going to go over the Week 5 matches, and then we're going to show you the team, and then catch up on his matches, because we are caught up with him on both Week 4 and 5 now at this point. He's played his matches.
Yep, this is going to be a nice, thick video. Obviously, you know, last week, if you joined us, you'll remember we only had the 3 matches, like Cabral just said. We've got to pick up the 4th that did not happen last week due to the drop, meaning that now we have 5, plus a little bit of draft analysis. So get yourself some water, make yourself comfortable, maybe a little popcorn or a vegan beet puff. I don't know.
I mean, go ahead. You eat whatever you want. So, Cody, who's our first team of the day?
Well, we've got 2 of them, in fact.
Oh, 2 of them?
Ooh, Firebolt of the Minnesota. Dude. Hey, Andrew, we've got oh my god. We have Firebolt of the Minnesota Magikarps versus Woody of the Schaumburg Salamences.
Take a deep
I was
breath.
just so excited, I couldn't control myself.
Put your head between your knees.
Yeah, sorry, I'll count backwards from 100 or something.
Yeah. Look,
this was really another big match. As we have been over, if you are not a stranger to the Pearl Division, you will be aware of the fact that GTP Woody has, as of Week 5, before the games having been played there, been 6-0'd every single game. So he, going into this, was 0-4 and minus 24, which is, you know, as bad a record as one can have going into Week 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it has created kind of an interesting dichotomy, which we have discussed before, or I guess dichotomy is not the appropriate word. But look, if you're fighting Woody, you kind of have to go for the 6-0, because if you don't go for the 6-0, then you will fall behind relatively to the other players, because if he's had 4 people get a 6-0 on him, that means that now over half of your division, not including you, has a 6-0, so you need to make sure you also have a 6-0, because in effect, if everyone else gets a 6-0 and you get a 2-0, you're now minus 4 on all of the other players in your division, even if you win.
And even taking a
look at Firebolt. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say Firebolt really needs that as well, because he's one of the players that's kind of swirling around in the middle, going in and out of playoffs qualification. So he cannot fall behind in div at all.
Yeah, and the team he's brought definitely shows that, I think, with a lot of his Pokemon just acting as really good counters. Like, looking at this team makeup, Crocodile is terrifying against Woody.
Yeah, Crocodile is really irritating for Woody to
Turtonator
deal
does
with.
a lot.
All he can really do is, like, Hippowdon can kind of handle it, but not amazingly well.
Yeah.
You know, Gastrodon is a real problem for this.
Aerodactyl Mega with Earthquake and a bunch of other moves is also just kind of scary. Rocks and Raichu also here, likely for Charizard Volt switching around and dealing with it. It is faster than it.
Yeah, you know, if Firebolt gets damage on, like, mostly Hippowdon is like the thing that none of these Pokemon can really kill in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
If Firebolt can get damage on that, then suddenly like Dragon Dance Aerodactyl or Nasty Plot Raichu become a real issue, as long as Firebolt can play around the Trick Room.
Yeah.
But if you're Firebolt, you're going into this game saying, I don't care about winning, I cannot really, you know, afford to sack Pokemon to get, like, good, consistent positioning. I kind of have to go for the 6-0, which means I have to play a little more aggressively.
Yeah. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look and see how aggressive he really was.
Let's have a look.
Starting off with the Chocolate Bunny, probably here to Volt Switch and Scout, seeing what's coming up, and immediately switching straight to Turtonator, and Woody also switching out at that point.
Yeah, I'm assuming Woody saw the air balloon, got spooked out, didn't want to Earthquake it, didn't feel confident, like, hitting it with some random coverage move. Like,
Yeah.
you know, because it's weak to, like, Thunderbolt plus Focus Blast or something, so it's I think that's a decent call from Woody.
Yeah.
And as I previously discussed, this Hippowdon is a real issue for Firebolt to kill in one shot. Even with this really powerful Mega Aerodactyl and some super effective coverage, he ends up going to sleep.
Yeah. Not running Slack Off? Might be running Slack Off. Did not go for the heals, though. Might have been a little more ideal there instead of going for another attack since Aerodactyl was asleep.
And Woody's team, on the whole, just hates being scalded. He doesn't love water in general, but Scald especially is really tough.
Yeah, Calm Mind boosting special defense, and Knock Off just straight up killing it.
Yeah, Woody made an error in his calculating there. I believe what it was he thought Calm Mind raised his physical defense, and therefore calced that he could live one knockoff when he could not.
Yeah, that's Cosmic Power he's thinking of.
Yep. And Firebolt knockoff, kind of on a reign of terror right now. Getting the Trace Intimidate on Crocodile is really nice. It actually allows him to live this close combat.
Yep.
And he's doing a good job of gimping the Crocodile, but now that this has lost its Eviolite, and obviously Trick Room is not going to stay up forever, you know, Woody has to really maximize his Trick Room turns if he wants to get any sort of action going.
Yep.
Because now he's only got 2 turns of Trick Room for the whole game, because all of his setters are dead. Firebolt making a good prediction going into Power Whip, not fearing the Earthquake with this. Beats it 59%. I think it must be Sheer Force.
It must be Sheer Force.
Because Sheer Force doesn't power up the Earthquake, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But it would power up, like... Well, not... I don't know.
It wouldn't power up.
I think it's Life Orb Sheer Force. I think that's what it is.
Yep, could be.
And Woody gets the hell on out of there. Mega evolves, goes for the Dragon Dance so that he can maybe force this out with some Dragon Claws, but unfortunately Scald just cuts right through it because it's a pretty special attack invested set.
Yep. And
Earth Power leaves this alive at 1 HP, and Power Whip kills Gastrodon. GTP Woody got 1 kill. Yeah!
Oh, he did it. He got his first kill of the season and then promptly died right after. But
yeah, well, yeah.
The roll on that was extremely low.
It was something like 10% chance that that didn't kill.
Yeah.
Firebolt got a remarkably low roll on that Earth Power against Caparajah because he was I think a literally max special attack modest set. And you know, the funny thing about that is like Flamethrower was the damage it had gotten prior. If Firebolt had run like Fire Blast or something, like just a little extra base power, any amount would have been enough.
Yeah, but he just didn't want to miss. Could have run Overheat too, actually.
Yeah, but Overheat can miss too. I mean, I would rather run Fire Blast than Overheat, generally. But it is funny. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can't necessarily predict for, and that Caparajah was, I think, a bit bulkier than Firebolt expected it to be. And even in that case where it's like a max HP Caparajah, you know, I mean, the Earth Power was like a 90% chance to one-shot, you know? Mm-hmm. Why not go for it, you know? Why risk taking like an Earthquake on your Turtonator if you're trying to call the Power Whip, you know, and then maybe not even kill it because you're only doing 48% with Flamethrower. So I don't think that Firebolt made any incorrect plays there. I think that Firebolt really came into it with the mentality and the execution and the game plan and the team to get the 6-0 and then just found a little bit of misfortune, but right where it matters, man. And Woody partying. I don't think you have the crop set up so that you can see the chat for that game, but Woody was popping off. He was like, yes, I got the 1 kill. Let's go.
Very excited, very eager for that. This is probably one of the bigger matches that happened in week 5. I almost said 4. That's coming up later.
Yeah, we are off our game today. I apologize.
No, yeah. Cody, we got another pair of players we should talk about, though.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, so we have Doodled of the Jobbin Wobbuffets versus Aurora of the Hoensbroek Haunters. Doodled up and coming, doing really well overall, and just hitting hard. A lot of the bigger players have not been doing super well. Like going against Vincent, he lost by 2, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, it was a 2-0.
Yeah, and Doodle's just up and coming doing really well, and Aurora's just doing her best to claw her way back into playoffs, having 2 losses earlier in this season. She's not looking too hot right now.
Yeah, she got really unlucky versus Vincent, and she kind of just got waxed by Nick off of sort of a misplay, or not necessarily a misplay, but she played a little too recklessly around Jinx, and then just kind of crumbled after she lost her Lanturns. So she's been trying to make it back, but obviously she didn't get a shot at a match last week on account of Lynn dropping out before they got to play. So she actually will be having 2 matches featured in this recap, but we got to start with this one because this was the one that got played first, and this is Aurora versus Doodled.
Yeah.
Really important. Doodled has been looking great. Like you said, his first season has been really, really nice. I believe he's 2-2 going into this match, having beaten Lynn and someone. Let me go look it up.
Firebolt? Nick?
He has not played Firebolt, as far as I know. Hold on, I'm checking.
Oh, Woody.
You stall for me.
He fought Woody.
He fought Woody?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Positive.
Because I'm looking it up right now, and he has fought Woody, like I said.
Yep.
Yeah. So, going into this, he'd beaten Lynn 6-0. He'd beaten Woody 6-0. So he'd gotten 2 6-0s, and his losses were both very, very slim, losing to Mass by 1 and losing to Vincent by 2. Yeah. So his differential is great, and his head-to-head in terms of the people who he is, really butting his head against hasn't happened yet. Beating Lynn was kind of like, okay, Lynn ended up not, her team, which is now coached by the San Fran Furrets, wasn't in like that strong of a position, and then losing to Mass kind of sucks, and Woody wasn't really in contention at this point either. So, him having to fight Aurora, Nick, and Firebolt still, all 3 of those players are people that he's really going to be trying to get the head-to-head and potentially some more diff on, so that his, when it comes down to like tiebreakers or differential, or even head-to-head matchups in the case of like a tied differential, Doodled is going to be a lot more directly in contention with the people he hasn't fought yet than the people he has fought. So those wins are great, and the differential is wonderful, but he also really needs to start pulling some wins against Aurora, Nick, and Firebolt. Otherwise, if he loses to all of them, they might just take the tiebreaker spots and he might fall out.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So with that being said, I think we just go ahead and see if he can nail this. Nail this win is not correct, but I'll take it.
Hey, let's nail this win.
It conveys the information and gets it across, and Aurora also really needs this win too.
Yep. They both need it really bad. Very pivotal match. Pivotal match. Imitable mass.
Yeah. Going for the flip turn. Serena coming out. Going for the volt switch.
Yeah, getting on out of there.
Yeah. Mandibuzz coming in.
Yeah, Mandibuzz is pretty much always going to be fine coming in on this with Rocky Helmet, because if he goes for if she goes for like a triple axle, then Rocky Helmet matters. But you know what else matters is that crit foul play, killing when it otherwise would not have killed.
Hypervoice doing so much damage, even with a Citrus Berry.
Yep.
Yeah, Defeatus sucks because that would have done a lot more damage to Sylveon.
Yeah. And then Delphox comes in, gets an early flame charge, which is kind of interesting. You don't usually see it being this hyper offensive, but hey, you want to talk about hyper offense, man? Weakness policy suddenly starts going ham.
Yeah.
But Doodled fears the Scarf Starmie and gets the call correct, actually, because it was Scarf.
Yep.
So smartly maintains his Delphox for later. And also pivots out immediately because he knows that he's not scared of getting scalded. So right now, Doodled playing really well, got a little bit of good fortune with that foul play crit and positioning appropriately. And now this matchup, this 1v1 is funny. Can you kind of walk everyone through it? Yeah,
so essentially Doodled thought this would switch out because Earthquake just kills this thing. And Aurora just stayed into Encore. And we're kind of stuck here, and Aurora keeps thinking here that Doodle wants to switch out. Doodle don't want to do that, and he just keeps clicking Ice Shard because at this point he's committed. Aurora's trying to click Volt Switch to try and get out because thinking Doodle's gonna leave. She's like, oh, now he'll leave. Nah, he's just gonna click Earthquake.
And she's right to think that because, you know, he wants to keep that Ice Shard for Landorus. but opts instead to just say, whatever, I'm going to trade my Donphan for this Togedemaru.
Yep.
And then Aurora gets this in front of the Volt Switch, which is, a little risky, but she makes the right call there.
Yep.
And now Mandibuzz comes right back out, and so does Starmie. Mandibuzz really has no reason not to come out at this point. It can kind of handle all three of these Pokemon.
Yeah.
Rotom-Wash comes back in, and this turn is bonkers, but we'll explain why later.
Yeah, the Hydro killing Starmie, Muck coming back in, taking a bit of damage from rocks, switching over to the Delphox to basically sack.
Just sack it. Yeah, just gonna say switch in. Dragapult doesn't necessarily need to come in here. Mandibuzz could have probably handled this on its own.
Yeah. Poison Jab, not doing a lot of damage at all.
Yeah, did not do a ton. Phantom Force is very scary for Aurora to deal with, though. It does a ton of damage. But this Muck, man, is just a little too bulky. Poison Jab, Poison. Yep. Good Fortune. Shadow Sneak from here kills. I don't even think she needed the Poison for the Shadow Sneak to kill. She just needed the Jab.
And at this point, Shadow Sneak not doing enough for this.
She does get the Poison Touch. And now this thing is Scarf, and as long as it doesn't miss Hydro Pump, it should just win outright. And even if it does win or miss Hydro Pump, then Mandibuzz should be able to come in and kind of handle it after.
Yeah.
So.
And Doodle taking a victory over Aurora, knocking Aurora even further down from playoffs contentions.
Really tough for Aurora. That is a bad loss to take. In conjunction with losing to Nick and also Vincent, the Vincent loss is one thing, especially given how close it was, but now losing to Doodle, who is someone who has just a great differential relative to the rest of his division, and now is getting, headway in terms of wins for his head-to-head matchups, he's really, really looking strong. I'd like to take a minute to explore just a minor controversy, or I guess it's more of a question.
Yeah. You can go ahead and do that real quick. I'll be right back while you do this.
Oh, okay. Well, I will deep dive into it while you're gone then, and I'll do a great job of it. I'm going to ask very politely that everyone in the audience DMs Cabral on Discord, says, "You're stinky." Also tell him happy birthday. His birthday is on the 29th of September, which is tomorrow, as of when we're recording this, maybe the day of its upload. Be nice to him, but also say he's stinky and smelly. Okay, I'm stalling for time. Here's the thing. The Hydro Pump that Rotom Wash did to Starmie did 39% damage. But Aurora calced it, and it should not have done that. As a timid Scarfer, it should have maxed out at 38.3, and effectively did 39.2 at minimum, because it killed her at 39.2%. So we punched the numbers into the calculator, and assuming again that both players were, and I don't know why they wouldn't be, but assuming that both players gave an accurate team paste, and we went over everything and we plugged it all into the website correctly, there's no real other way. We were very thorough with this. That Hydro Pump makes no sense. Given the Starmie's health, it should not have done, without being modest, without critting, should not have done 39.2% off a Timid Scarf. And it did. And no one can really figure out why. And that was a, turn that informed Aurora's play. She thought she'd learned, about its speed or about its nature, and ultimately just got bamboozled by the damage calculator.
So bamboozled.
Yeah, it really does not make any sense, and if anyone can point out why in the comments that can happen, or why that did happen, I highly encourage you. It was a 252 special attack, Scarfed Rotom Wash Hydro Pump versus a 0 HP 40 special defense Starmie, and it did more than 38.3%. And if you put that into the calculator, you should get what I got and what Aurora got, which is that it should never have killed without a crit.
Yep. So Aurora forgot to put that 40 points over.
No, I mean, she got it. And again, she got the same calc that I got when they both sent me their paste. So unless they sent me the paste wrong, our current hypothesis is that maybe there was just a rounding error or
Could
something.
Be. Something to look into as well, potentially, is any damage that Starmie took earlier as well, potentially.
Well, no, I mean, again, Starmie had over 38.3% health when it was switched in. When it was there in front of that attack. Doesn't matter what it had, before. It just matters that from the HP it was at when it got hit by the Hydro Pump, it shouldn't have died, but it did.
Gotcha.
So,
but either way, victory goes to Doodle.
Vexing, in fact, for Aurora, putting her in a very tough spot, and Doodle kind of coasting. I mean, he doesn't necessarily want to lose anything going forward, but he has a lot more wiggle room than most.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, king of wiggle room himself, Vincent, the coach of the Heerlen Hawluchas, fighting White Loaf, coach of the Loafville Lanturns, who also is having a pretty solid season. I mean, Vincent, of course, being undefeated going into Week 5, and White Loaf having himself a win over Aurora and also good wins over, like, Mass, and I think one other. He hasn't fought Woody yet, so it's like somewhere in there, but White Loaf has kind of just been in the mix, getting it done for a while, and he's been doing really well. Vincent obviously also has been going really hard this season. Zamazenta and quite a bit of good fortune has very firmly planted him at the top of the division, and he's very unlikely to drop any games going forward. So,
yeah.
You know, can White Loaf do it? I mean, if anyone could, White Loaf could, until you look at his team and the matchup. And then you can.
Yeah, one of the issues is, like, Zamazenta does a lot, Moltres does a lot, Gardevoir also is, like, really hard to deal with.
Yeah, we see an interesting start from both teams where it's like a Gardevoir versus Sirfetch'd start, and then Sirfetch'd, presumably it was calced because Gardevoir stays in and Sirfetch'd switch out, but first impression either didn't kill or Nick was fearing the sash, and Vincent was well aware. And it kind of just starts dismantling the team. And unfortunately, you know, it's like a very specifically constructed house of cards that White Loaf has here, where if he loses too many specific Pokemon, then suddenly you can't switch into Moltres, you can't get enough damage on Zamazenta without instantly dying, you can't handle, you know, Gardevoir.
Yeah.
So,
but let's
look
at that
issues.
First play.
Sure, let's do it.
And let's just kind of analyze and see what goes on here, because we do have that start that you're mentioning. It is scrappy.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
That's pretty sad.
Moonblast doing so much to this thing already, and like at this point, Nick cannot just keep up with the amount of damage being done to that.
Yep. Nick wants to keep Comfy, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, it can sort of bully Lantern, but
that's about it, really.
Yeah, losing the Marowak is really tough.
Yeah.
And now this Moltres is really tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Blastoise can basically do it, which is why Vincent likes to get out of there. And we still don't know if it's like a bulky set, which you can kind of assume is a bulky set given that it just got off a Scald and stayed in.
Yeah.
Instead of Shell Smashing immediately. So it's probably not Setup Sweeper, but, you know, you're going to see this kind of start to fall apart very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a shame. I don't think he has any ground types on his team this season, does he?
No, I mean, I don't know if it was running it, but Alolan Marowak does get Lightning Rod, so it's an immunity to Electric. But also, if he puts it in front of, Zeraora, it can get knockoffed, or knocked off, I guess. Well, it's resistant to Play Rough as well.
It is resistant to Play Rough. It could just get hit by things, though.
It just doesn't like being knocked, and, But, I mean, it was burned at that point, so maybe it would have worked out. Flame Body happens, as it is wont to do. This turn is actually quite unfortunate for Nick.
Knockoff happening.
Knockoff happens, loses his helmet, and then misses the Dragon Tail, which would have potentially forced in something that would have then either had to take an additional Dragon Tail, or he would have gotten, like, I don't know, Gunk Shot or something on this Gardevoir. He would have gotten something. As it stands, though, Vincent calls him out for trying to Dragon Tail again, goes into a Fairy, and every time this Gardevoir comes in, it gets a kill.
Yeah.
And at this point, Vincent's pretty much already knocked too many legs off of Nick's team for him to do anything.
Uh-huh.
Gets flame-bodied again. Which, it happens. Like, that's kind of what Moltres is for.
Yep. And at this point, like you said, Nick just doesn't have any way to gain a lot of momentum. Sure, he can kill a Pokemon or two here. Going for the Iron Defense, not sure why when Skull was fairly free to click on anything that came in.
I think he wanted to try and deal with Zamazenta in case it came out.
Okay, prepare for Body Press.
Yeah, but the problem is, obviously you've still got Gardevoir in the back, and it's like Gardevoir plus Lantern probably deals.
Scald also could have potentially burned Zamazenta as well.
Yep. And then pretty much the final nail in the coffin happens right here, where White Loaf goes for a bulk up and instead gets hit by what is probably max attack Adam in close combat.
Most likely.
And suddenly, even though he's bulked up, he is going to die to the next close combat, as is really anything that comes in raw on it.
Yeah. Going back into
Blastoise
Lantern,
back
though.
in. Yeah, Lantern at full HP means it kind of just deals with Blastoise, especially if it gets a crit on the Thunderbolt, which did matter as far as killing it goes. And at this point, Vincent's got it wrapped up 6-0.
Yep.
Kind of. So Vincent does a thing here that I don't love, which, as far as I can tell, there's absolutely zero reason to do this switch unless you want to pad Miltank's stats or if you're BMing. And I don't think he wanted to pad Miltank's stats.
Yeah.
I get the impression that he wanted to give Nick a pity kill, which does not sit well with me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't love that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a misrepresentation of the situation. But at that point, there was no reason to ever switch out of your Moltres.
Yeah, Flamethrower just killed. You outsped it, I believe? I don't remember if you outsped it or not. He did
I think it did, but it was never going to get killed anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. I didn't like that too much, Vincent. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, White Loaf did not like it any more than I did, I'm sure. Again, more good fortune for Vincent, but really he didn't need it in this matchup.
Yeah.
If I'm being completely honest, the matchup was quite in his favor off rip, and any good fortune was, well, I mean, it was nice, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah. And at this point, Swoopman being undefeated at a really high just differential right now, and guaranteed playoffs with only 2 matches left this season.
Yep. And again, he's looking like he's going to go into playoffs with no losses.
Yeah. Definitely the case. So, with having wrapped up those matches, we have a new player. We have the San Fran first, coached by Trash Panda, or Jake. Coming in with the same differential as Lynn for the first match coming up, which I believe is a 1-3 on the first match. No, that wouldn't be the case. It's a 1-2.
1-2, yeah. She hadn't played her week 4.
Yep. So it would have been a 1-2 at that point. And as a new player coming in the middle of the season, he is allowed to do as many free agent swaps as he wants to try and get some more personalized team, to get a little bit things that where he can see weaknesses on, because it's not fair to just come in the middle of a season with someone else's differential. So we give new players a opportunity, a chance to grab some new things, mix up their team, and kind of prepare for the end of the season. Usually, when you're kind of in the middle of the season, it's hard to be guaranteed playoffs or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, you tend to find that the people who drop out are not the people who are doing well. Right. Yeah. So it just kind of works out that we want to give people an opportunity to, firstly, most importantly, just make a team that clicks with them better, grab Pokemon that maybe they like that they didn't get an opportunity to use. Because if you just inherit a complete team from someone else, it's not like, it's not yours. Like, a big part of the drafting process is picking stuff that you like, either archetypically or just in terms of its design or, what have you. So it also gives you kind of a bit of a competitive edge in your last couple of matches. If you take over a team and you get to change your team entirely, you can and are somewhat expected to counter team the drafts of your remaining opponents to the best of your ability. Now, in this season, based on the way the tier list is, based on how many people entered, there were not a lot of Pokemon up for grabs. Yeah. But still, you can make a couple of small changes go a really long way if you know exactly what you're scared of going forward. Yeah. So why don't you break down what he got?
Yeah, he got quite a few things. Swapping out Keldeo for Ferrothorn, which is a stunning swap, personally. I think Ferrothorn's such a good pickup. Regieleki for Ditto, Colossal for Poliwrath, Pidgeot for Dedenne, and Rapidash Galar for Ninjask. And I think these are really fun pickups for his team. Ferrothorn, and he's got kind of keeping Dugong from previously, kind of has a little minor weather core potential going on here, with Ferrothorn benefiting immensely from any rain, just dropping that fire damage, and with how bulky Ferrothorn is, can just start taking hits even further beyond what it means to take hits.
Most certainly. And Poliwrath loves rain as well, a Swift swimmer that is fairly solid at setting up rain dance. And like you said, hydration on Dugong. You could run maybe like a rest set where you instantly wake up, kind of echoes of like Manaphy from like, previous generation OUs.
Yep.
So he has kind of a little baby weather. I also really like the synergy between Ferrothorn, Ditto, and Alakazam in general. It's not really a specific type of core, but more of like an archetype overlap thing where, like, again, Ferrothorn very bulky, especially in rain, but even outside of rain, really tough to break if you don't have a really strong wall breaker or a really good setup sweeper. But Alakazam loves revenge killing wall breakers, and Ditto loves copying setup sweepers. Yeah. So it's kind of like a protect the president situation where Ferrothorn becomes very difficult to kill if played correctly because your offensive answers will probably die to Alakazam or Ditto.
Yeah, and overall, though, I think his team is fairly well-rounded. I don't like grabbing the Dene is interesting. I think it does well, though, because Cheek Patch is all right, but getting a fairy type, I think, is just really nice to deal with any dragons that might come in and start messing with his team.
Losing Galarian Rapidash is tough if you don't replace it with another fairy, because you kind of just need to have a fairy somewhere. Kind of in the same way where I feel like you need to have a dark type somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just one of those types that's really important for draft.
Yeah. But with that being said, like, overall, he's a bit ground weak, has some flying weakness as well, with not a lot of resist at all, and fire also goes a little ways with him. But having that rain potential is really nice to deal with that issue.
Yep.
And his speed has immensely picked up too. Getting a Braviary, Ninjask, and even Ditto, depending on what it copies as well, is just really good.
Ninjask itself is a great value pick. Down at bottom tier, I mean, having speed boost, Swords Dance, decent coverage, and just being strong enough to be a threat in a lot of situations.
And even Infiltrator sometimes can be a little niche, but you know what? It can do really well just because your base speed being 160, the highest available base stat speed other than, like Regieleki?
Yes, I do believe that Ninjask is the second fastest Pokemon. Could be wrong. It's definitely up there either way.
It's definitely up there. It's 1 or 2 if Regieleki is not that fast.
Well, Regieleki is definitely faster. Regieleki is base 200. Ninjask is what? Base
160.
160? My God, yeah. I think there might be like one other Pokemon faster than Ninjask, but aside from, again, Regieleki, that's speed control, man.
It is. Well, here's the other thing. He had Regieleki and swapped it out, so no one has Regieleki, which means Ninjask is the fastest base speed Pokemon available right now, so nothing's outspeeding him. So Infiltrator could be nice to get rid of things behind sub.
You give it Protect, gets in, has 1 turn of speed boost, it's now faster than any Scarfer in the entire game, in the entire league. So, given, again, like you said, that Regieleki is gone. So, Ninjask, it has great utility. I think is a good pickup as well.
Yeah, with the access to U-turn, like, it just does really well.
Yep.
Overall, I think his draft is fairly well-rounded. I think there's a lot of potential here. Now, this is his first ever season of Double Dip, and also his first time ever playing competitive Pokemon, only having played Pokemon minorly when he was younger. So he does not have a lot of experience in this whatsoever, so one of the first matches that he has coming in is fighting Aurora. And for a first-time comer, never having played the game or competitive and barely knowing kind of Pokemon in general, it's going to be a rough first match.
Yeah, there's a couple of funny dynamics at play here right now. So to start, I would say generally Pearl is a great division to get dropped into if you don't know Pokemon that well, because there's a lot of people that are keeping the division really even. So you might only need to sneak a couple of wins to actually make it to playoffs and have like a cool run. Conversely, unfortunately, Jake inheriting Lynn's team when she still has to fight Aurora and Vincent, I believe.
Yes.
So that's not as good.
No, that's not as good.
For someone who's brand new.
He does get to fight Woody later.
True, he does also have Woody, which is nice, but kind of the pendulum swings back and forth, doesn't it? Because there's another angle on this to consider, which is that Aurora does somewhat struggle versus like week 1 players. We brought this up a little bit in the last recap, but I'd like to kind of elaborate on it here. Aurora lost her week 1 this time. She lost her week 1 to Dogmaster way back in the day. And just in general has kind of a spotty record. She lost like her week 1 versus Levin, who is very similar to Jake in terms of his, Pokemon experience, which is like a little as a kid, never as an adult. And she had lost to him before. So Jake being someone where she can't really adequately predict how he'll play, what he'll bring, what his mindset will be. And also, just again, she's having a touch of bad luck this season and also just isn't playing her sharpest. So she is the most killable she's ever been.
Yeah.
So this could be Jake's opportunity to make an incredible upset on his very first match.
Yeah, definitely. With that being said, we do have our first match between the two. Of course, Aurora being the coach of the Hoensbroek Hunters and Jake being the coach of the San Fran Furrets. But we've been talking about them this whole time.
Welcome aboard, San Fran Furrets. I don't know if we said his name at all, or the team name, but Jake of the San Fran Furrets, welcome to the Pearl Division, and we are looking forward to having you with us for the last couple of weeks.
And we look forward to watching your first match.
Let's jump in.
Start off with Ditto, just to get whatever comes in. And Aurora's been leading Lando, and it's pretty common, with Ditto being faster than Lando, showing that it's scarfed.
Well, okay, so Ditto is slower than Lando until it captures the Intimidate thing. It's it's a scarf.
It's a scarf. Getting knocked off the scarf, we do see that, of course. Rock Polish being a great click of a move, and just clicking knock off, killing off Starmie immediately. And doing a ton of damage.
He just immediately yoinks Aurora's Landorus set and gets a ton of damage off with it.
Yeah.
Togedemaru coming back in, having been kind of it's a bit of a fresh face for Aurora's team, having not been brought in the first couple of weeks, but now we're seeing it twice in a row.
Yeah.
And it does get quite a lot of passive damage here with the Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet.
Going into Ferrothorn because it just sits on Togedemaru all day.
Yep.
The monkey comes in.
The monkey's chain. The monkey's fist.
The monkey's flamethrower.
Yeah, the flamethrower.
Yeah,
actually,
a lot to this thing.
Polyrath's really good as a switch in here.
Yeah, it really is.
It is a bit scared of Togedemaru, zing-zapping, or, in this case, nuzzling.
Yep. And again, Ferrothorn is just the switch into this thing. Aurora actually only has really Infernape to deal with Ferrothorn. So if Jake can manage to take out Infernape, that actually is huge.
Yeah, Ferrothorn, it doesn't do great versus, like, Mystical Fire off of Sylveon or, like, Earthquake off of Landorus, but it doesn't die to those things in a vacuum. Like, it has to be a combination of, like, a lot of hits. Kind of almost the same as Zamazenta in a way, but it's a lot more beatable than Zamazenta. Also, you see here, we're learning a little new tech, which is that Endure does not work after Spiky Shield. I believe that Endure and Protect cannot be alternated in that way. Yeah,
they actually same, so it's good to know. Some good new knowledge. This does live a close combat, but not at 18% health.
Yep. Of course,
and
this thing scares it out.
Yep, just clicking Psychic all day, every day, doing so much damage. Switching out, don't know if Psychic would have killed. Might have been close, but I cannot guarantee that.
Yeah. I mean, there's not necessarily any reason not to go into Ferrothorn there.
Yeah.
Especially getting up the rocks is really good for this endgame, even though it's late.
Yeah. At this point, probably should have sacked Ninjask. That's rough. The Aka Berry was great because it lives and then kills it back, but did not prep that.
How does it kill it back? With what move?
Air Slash.
Oh, really?
Yep, just kills it.
Shoot. And then we see kind of a little bit of Choky Bears from Aurora here. So she lives the Dual Wing Beat quite easily after an Intimidate, goes for Rock Polish, but then Speed Boost happens. And wait a second, this thing is still faster.
Yep,
Rock Polish.
It is very fast. It's only getting faster, by the way.
Yeah, Muck would have definitely appreciated coming in a bit sooner to keep Landorus alive into this endgame. And despite all odds, managed to live a Psychic from Alakazam. Muck, by the way, such a good Pokemon.
It is
if you're not
very
familiar.
good Pokemon.
My God. But the Fire Blast is all the damage she needs to get Infernape in to kill it after.
Yeah. Jake, if he had gone into Ferrothorn a little earlier against Muck, might have been able to kill it with or do some decent damage with the Gyro Ball enough to get Alakazam to come in and just start sweeping.
Yeah, there's a couple of blunders on both sides. Aurora, if she'd killed the Ninjask, would have retained her Landorus, which would have been really threatening into the endgame.
Yep.
But then also, Jake could have done, like you said, he could have gone into Ferrothorn a little earlier on Muck, or Ferrothorn, like, if he, sacked a Ninjast early and gotten in the air slash off of, taking the Akaberry Flamethrower and then air slashing the Infernape to kill it, like you said,
Yep.
would have then made Ferrothorn basically unkillable unless he allowed Landers to set up with Dual Dance, which it probably was because it was Rock Polish. So there's a lot of alternate universe versions of this endgame that happen.
Yeah, but you know what? For a first ever match in the Double Dip League and first ever competitive Pokemon battle, not a bad showing by Jake whatsoever, which we do know, by the way. He had a lot of people helping him this week prep.
Yeah, and Aurora, has got to be crying for that one. I mean, just the 1-0, barely enough, having lost to now, White Loaf and
Doodled, actually, the following match after this.
Doodled. Yeah, so just Aurora really, really going through it right now, and I genuinely feel for her. I'm on the receiving end of that in Platinum right now too. So we're the same, you and I feel bad for her. But you gotta feel good for Jake, man. That's a strong opener. Makes you very, very scary looking for your next match, since of course he did not have his week 4 played by Lynn before he took over the team. He has to play 2 in 1 week, and we are almost to the end of this monstrous video.
Yeah. We 40 minutes in. Not that long, actually.
Wow, really? It feels like I've been here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
We have got Jake of the San Fran Furrets back at it again versus Mass of the Minneapolis Magnezones. This is the actual Week 5 match, not the Week 4. And Mass, the story of someone who, again, has kind of been doing the rounds in the middle, alternating between being in playoffs and out of playoffs over and over again.
Yeah.
Beating Doodle was really great for him, and losing to everyone else has not been as good.
Yeah.
So,
man,
he really needs this
Chan
win
looks
over
so
Jake.
small. He's just
Yeah, he's a tiny little guy. Yeah.
Why is the little Dugtrio bigger than him?
I was gonna say, you stack 2 of the bigger Dugtrio heads.
I know, right?
All of Hitmonchan.
We gotta start measuring things by Dugtrio heads.
Yeah, that's true. Celesteela is about 3 Dugtrio heads tall.
Looks like it.
Talonflame is probably about 4 wide. If
Wow,
you
that's
count the
insane.
wingspan.
4 wide, yeah, with wingspan. How many Dugtrio wingspans is Talonflame?
Dugtrio wings, well, I guess 0.25?
Yeah, I guess so. Which, by the way, speaking of Talonflame, is one of the only things Mass has to really threaten Ferrothorn, as well as Celesteela. It does get Flamethrower and a bunch of other moves. We do see Poliwrath making an appearance here. Again, Ferrothorn coming back. Nidoqueen coming back with some great special attack move coverage to be able to help out here in this matchup. Ditto, it's going to be insane no matter what it does. Alakazam's back, of course, and Houndoom probably here with some Flash Fire to deal with any fire attacks coming in.
Yeah, Houndoom basically trying to cover Flash Fire hits from Ferrothorn again. Ferrothorn, I think the question for every one of Jake's matches for the rest of the season is how do I kill Ferrothorn? How do I kill the stuff that kills Ferrothorn?
Yep.
Because that's really the dynamic at play. And so, like you said, Celesteela, Talonflame, and I don't think you brought it up, but Mega Gardevoir Mystical Fire can be an issue.
Yep.
And also close combat from Hitmonchan can be an issue.
Can be.
So,
depends if he's gone special or physical defense, because once you start bulking up into that physical defense, grabbing iron defense, close combat starts to not do as much damage as you think it would.
True. And what's interesting is Celesteela kind of struggles, unless it kind of puts a foot in both worlds, which we'll see later probably. No spoilers, but if it goes a hard defense stally set, it actually can't really deal with Ferrothorn that well. But if it goes a full hard offense setup set, well, Ditto will just yoink it after. So you got to be careful with that too.
But with that being said, let's get started, because this is quite the team preview, and Jake's team, after having picked up some Pokemon, is just really honestly good. Setting up Rain right away to ensure that he can live anything. The opponent coming in, clicking Toxic. Don't know if Jake knew about Steel being immune to poison or not.
I think that's still a good play. I mean, obviously it's not a good play if the poison or the Steel type stays and it doesn't get Toxic, but it was it's in the rain. It's water type in the rain. You're gonna smack around that little water type or that little ground type with your water type.
Yeah. Ferrothorn coming in, just taking Air Slash like a champ. I believe this is a special set Ferrothorn as well. Might be split. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. But you see, okay, so you could kind of assume that this is a bulky, Leech Seed, Air Slash situation. And then it shows Autotomized, so then you're just I don't know what the hell this is.
Why is it Autotomized? It outspeeds a lot of the team. It might be Autotomized to deal with Houndoom.
I mean, yeah, it needs to get past Houndoom, needs to, I don't know, it can force... It depends on how fast it is, but, like it can get above Alakazam if you're running hard speed, but it's kind of like, again, he's playing with a foot in both worlds. He's got a little bit of stall and a little bit of offense on it.
Yep.
And that Ditto, not familiar with the interaction with Imposter and Substitute, Substitute blocks Imposter.
Yep, it does do that. There's a lot of little caveats that Ditto can't copy, that being one of them, and then a couple other things as well.
And then, okay, insane luck. Hold on. So right there, dodging that air slash.
Yep.
Allowing him to break the substitute so that now Ditto can take this stat change.
Yeah.
And then also getting this flamethrower crit, which otherwise would not have killed.
Yeah, kind of insane there. Also would have just killed Steela too had he gone for Thunderbolt instead of Rocks.
Yeah. So some good fortune kind of brings them back to neutral. But then, yeah, this thing just earthquakes and kills.
Yep.
It's sort of hard to switch into it. You know, it's kind of too bad because he had an opportunity really early on to just immediately muscle it out with Poliwrath, but he instead opted to like do Rain Dance, which I don't think was a bad play necessarily, but it is kind of coming back to bite him.
Getting rid of Gale Wings, kind of nice.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily running Gale Wings, but if it is, actually, yeah, I can see it running Gale Wings.
Yeah, because the only other thing he gets is Flame Body, which I guess it could be running, but...
Flame Body, it runs a lot of Flame Body nowadays, like in lower tiers. And you see, actually, Mass does get the dual Wing Beat read correct and kills that. If he dual Wing Beated in front of the Ferrothorn, if it hadn't left, it would have been in a lot of trouble after like the Leech Seed damage stacked up.
Yeah.
But as it stands, Mass gets the read correct, is able to two-shot the Poliwrath without it doing any damage back, and unfortunately, Jake cannot stall out enough turns to knock the Flare Blitz to death.
Yeah, definitely. For sure, and then Talifum dies.
Yep.
Jake just lacking that bit of experience to just know kind of what works well at this point, I think. But I think he has the team for it. He's just got to get the know-how now for his team.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, you cannot envy him. He's coming in at a hard position. You know, you only get a little bit of the draft that maybe you would have wanted in theory. You have to pick up a team that's already got a pretty rough record.
To learn how to play the game.
And you have to learn how to play the game. Yeah, that's in the best case scenario where you already come in knowing how to play and how to make use of the tools you have. You know, maybe he doesn't have a great shot at it.
Yeah. But going really close against Aurora was insane. Losing to Mass is kind of rough. He does have 2 matches left, Vincent next week, and Woody as his final week. And you know what? If he 6-0s Vincent and Woody, then he's got one last shot to make the playoffs. Otherwise, that's about it.
Yeah, it is very likely that the San Fran Furrets, unfortunately, do not advance to playoffs, which is unfortunate, but, you know, that's just how it is.
That's just how
Still not impossible, though. And he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. You know, it's not always about just getting into playoffs. That's kind of the main goal for most players, but sometimes if you're new or you're coming in late or you already have a pretty bad record, you need to shift your goalpost. Woody popped off when he got 1 kill.
Yep.
He was excited that he got 5-0'd.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's great for him because you know what? He shifted the goalpost to something he could do and then he pulled it off and it still felt good. And
Jake
so even if he can't make the playoffs, like, you know, find something that you want to accomplish and try and do that.
Yeah. Jake, for instance, was just not wanting to get 6-0 in his very first match, and he did well beyond that.
That's true. That is very true.
So
that's good.
With that being said, though, our current rankings are now up to date, and we have them for you for the Pearl Division, so you can take a gander and look, and we can start to see... Well, not much has changed, actually. A little bit's changed.
Yeah.
Not too much, but a little bit has definitely changed to make it difficult. It's still that same kind of range for who can make it almost, but less likely because of differential. Would you like to take the top 4?
I'd be happy to if you take the bottom 4.
Okay.
We've got Vincent of the Heerlen Hawluchas at a 5-0 and plus 17, remaining undefeated going into week 6. We've also got the Jobbin Wobbuffets in second, coached by Doodle at 3-2 and plus 11 with a very high differential. In third, we've got Firebolt of the Minnesota Magikarps at 3-2 and plus 8, I believe that is. Tied with Immutable Mass of the Minneapolis Magnezones, also at 3-2 and plus 8, but has the head-to-head advantage going in with seeding. You gotta take the bottom 4, man.
I know, I breathed. Hold on. I had to take a breath. Something caught in my throat. It was air. So... The bottom 4, in 5th place, we got the Loafville Lanturns, Nick at a 3-2 minus 3, with Aurora right under him at 2-3 plus 1. Jake coming in, the San Fran Furrets at a 1-4, -13, and Woody coming in 8th place at an 0-5, -29.
But hey, it's not a -30.
It is not a -30. Looking at it now, we have a better idea of who can go on and make it to playoffs. However, with Nick still being a 3-2 at -3, he can still come back if Doodle, Firebolt, and Mass are not careful. Same goes for Aurora. If Aurora does well in these last 2 matches, she's at a 2-3, yes. She has to win these 2, though. Is what I believe is where we're at, because with 4 players being 3-2, she has to get 2 wins. If she gets 1 more loss, it's likely she won't be able to pull her way out. She does have okay differential at a +1, but with everyone being at +8 and up who's making the playoffs, it's harder.
Yeah, Aurora is in a very tough spot right now. Has she played Woody yet?
No, I don't believe so.
Can you check?
I can check.
I sure would appreciate it if you go and check.
Well.
You can just click on her. Here, I'll check, actually, because you're doing it inefficiently.
Well, I already looked at it, and the answer is no, she doesn't.
She
has already fought. She has already fought Woody.
Okay, so that's interesting. So her having not already fought Woody makes her season way harder. Because, again, and with respect to Woody, Woody is the source of all this differential and all these positive records, and if you still have your chance to maybe get a bit of differential and another win off of Woody, that kind of inflates your position relative to where it looks like it is. So with Whiteloaf at 3-2 and -3, let's say he doesn't even 6-0 Woody, let's say he 3-0s Woody, that puts him at a 4-2 +0. And suddenly he's way back up in there into contention, you know? Yeah. Because Nick not having played that match, it really matters. So Firebolt, Doodle, we can kind of assume that Vincent's going on, and I would say Doodle has a really good shot at this point, given how inflated his differential looks.
Yep, and having already fought Aurora and Vincent, Doodle only has, I believe it's... I know I'm doing it inefficiently again. Thank you for...
That's all right. And hey, I forgive you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do.
Well, thank you. Either way, he's got to fight Firebolt, and he has to fight Nick last. So those are big matches, actually, for those two, and who gets to move on at that point.
Yeah, it's crazy, because we're already 5 weeks done under the belt. We still don't know what combo of players from 2 through 6 are going on. It's pretty safe to assume that 1 is a lock, and it's also pretty safe to assume that 7 and 8 are a lock. Which means that you just need to figure out, we don't know who's going on as the 2nd seed.
Unless
or the 3rd
something
seed,
insane happens, but I don't think it will. Jake likely at this point will not be going on. But literally, I think he'd have to do 2 6-0s and hope someone does 2 really bad losses of the top 3. Or 2.
We'll have a better idea at the end of this week, what that looks like, because we'll only have 1 week remaining, and then we can literally quantify, who has to beat who. Right? What losses are allowed, what losses are not allowed, what differential is necessary, and how do the head-to-heads look. Because at this point, given again how kind of weirdly circular the division is looking, these last matches between the people who are in that middle block, having Aurora, Firebolt, Doodle, Mass, in the mix, even Whiteloaf. But although, the thing is I'm saying though, Whiteloaf should beat Woody pretty handily, and that is going to make him hard to knock out. Which means that it's just, I don't know. I still don't know who goes on.
Yeah, and this is going to be until the last week. Whereas if you take a look at the other divisions, and please go check out those videos, we're starting to get a really good idea. We're down to a few players fighting for likely just 4th spot at this point. Some potential for 3rd in one of the divisions, but you have to take a look. It's not likely, but you have to take a look at those for more details and to figure out what's going on in those divisions.
Yeah, we've basically, and I think this is true for both Platinum and Diamond, you've got 3 who are basically hard guaranteed to advance, if not literally hard guaranteed to advance.
Yep.
And then that 4th spot is being, passed between, 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
Whereas this division, no one knows who's going to advance.
Yeah, other than Vincent and Woody, for sure locked in. Absolutely, 85 to 95% locked in is San Fran Furrets. He's not getting out of... He's not getting into playoffs. He might move up in ranking, you never know, but I don't think he's getting into playoffs.
Yeah.
Because he still has that Woody fight.
That's true. He does on that Woody fight. So again, his position is also somewhat deflated compared to where it should be. But then he's also such a new player that it might not be as much of a stomp. And the thing is, too, consider like Woody also did get a kill this time, which I know we've been kind of derisive and we've been giving him a bit of a hard time over it. But getting over the hump is the hardest part. Like getting the first kill is a lot harder than getting your second kill. So I feel like he might be a little more of a danger to Nick and Jake going forward. If only a little.
Yeah, if only a little. But with that being said, please stay tuned. Week 6 is huge. A lot of really big matches. You have an insane match this week.
I do, yeah. Make sure to check out.
I also have an insane match this week.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's do or die time across the whole league. Pearl is no exception, but it's also not the only one. We would highly recommend you check out the companion videos to this one if you haven't already. Yep. Please watch Cabral and Claire probably breaking down Platinum Division, and myself and Kenneth breaking down Diamond Division. Yeah, and with that being said, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful day and that you take care, and be sure to stay tuned for week 6 because it's gonna be a week. And with that scream being said, have a wonderful day. Goodbye. You're gonna kill someone.